So, this is not the weekend. Huh. Okay, I want to start off by apologizing. I'm sorry. I didn't just mean to like ghost you guys. My family and whatnot, everybody wanted to go to New York. Then I went with partner again, and then stuff and friends, and just life kind of got in the way. And then I was just tired. The last couple of days, it was nothing more than just me being a lazy bum around the house and just spending time with my family. And I always mean to record on the weekends because I feel like that's when I should have the most time, considering the fact that, you know, like my mom is here and I don't have to worry about cooking because she's a great cook. Even if I did want to cook for myself, I wouldn't because she's amazing. And, you know, I don't have work, but it always ends up being that I'm like somehow more busy on the weekends because like everybody wants to spend time together, like just the fam, you know, we don't go out anywhere because of the COVID. And it just never seemed to happen. And then partner left this past Thursday. He went back home because, you know, he has work stuff. He couldn't take any more time off. So I'm still here for at least a little bit longer until my mom's feeling a little better. If you guys don't know, my mom, I came here specifically because I miss my family, but also because my mom's having surgery, knee surgery in particular. And so, you know, depending on what happens, she's feeling much better about the surgery in general, but she hasn't gotten it yet. It's scheduled for September, and depending on what's happening with COVID, it may get canceled or pushed out, or she may cancel it if she doesn't feel comfortable. Anyway, all that is to say, it's been some time. Hey guys, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Quick location information. I removed the light that's back there. That's all the weird patches you're seeing on the wall. My dad had installed this vanity light for me when I used to live back home. And I took it off because I wanted to change around the arrangement in this room a little bit. And it just looked a little weird and I was no longer a big fan of it. And now I'm in front of my window, which is really nice because you guys get all this nice lighting on my face. Anyway, what I was saying was that you guys get all this nice lighting and all of that. The setup may change a little bit more. I made this dresser, by the way, if you guys like it. It was a really old thing that my sister had. And I like sanded it, cleared up all the old finish, and then I put like, you know, some nice paint on it. It's like gunmetal gray with white. I kind of like that. Most of my furniture in here is white now, except for this table, which is ugly and hideous, and I plan on replacing it with something nicer as soon as I find something on like a good deal, like a secondhand thing, which is how I like to get a lot of my furniture. Anyway, let's talk about why we're actually here, shall we? Let's talk about Chantal. So Chantal's had a really, really eventful time, and I know there's a lot happening. My initial thought was that I would just come back with a regular react and I would just talk about everything I had to talk about then. And I realized, given how fast she's moving and how much content she's putting out, I'd never be able to catch up with that. I'd never be able to give all of my thoughts about what's happened in the past few days while I've been off the internet and give it to you in a succinct way where I think it makes sense. So I'm going to make a standalone video right now just talking about my thoughts on what's been going on with Chantal. My God, this dry shampoo is not great. Don't get the Dove dry shampoo, you guys. This is why I don't like filming after I go to the gym. Okay, so I am going to just go through some of the points I have. I have notes here. And I'm just going to go through my notes and I'm just going to talk about the few points that I have with everything. I just want to give you guys what my thoughts are on each point. I know stuff's going to have changed by the time I film and upload this. They always do with Chantal. It's just the name of the game. But I'm hoping that once I get this out, then I can just sort of keep pace with what she's doing and just talk about the videos that I want to talk about. Once more, sorry about being gone. I never like it when people do it to me. So I'm always sorry when I do it to other people. I'm really sorry that I just sort of ghosted you guys. It really wasn't my intention. It's just life, you know? All right. With all that said, let's get into it. So the first point that I want to talk about in particular was her addiction. Couple different forms of addiction. The big one, of course, is drug use. We've seen this, you know, when she's been doing drugs continuously, right? Legal ones for the most part that she shows all the time. But then there's also a lot of illegal drugs. The video I'm talking about in particular, I don't remember the name of it, but she was like smoking from a bong and then she turns off the audio and she pans the camera away for a little bit and she comes back. And you can see that her nose is bothering her so much more through the rest of that video. And there's just been other instances where she has looked out of it is the best way that I can describe it. And I can't think of it being for any other reason other than the fact that she has to have been on something. So, you know, it's worrying. So I worry about that when it comes to her. I worry that she's still abusing drugs. I don't think she has done the work necessary for her to not be. She isn't going to meetings. She isn't really talking to a counselor. She isn't doing any of the things that are really required for her to not be an addict. And so it makes me think that what reason would she have for not being on drugs anymore? You know, her reasoning before wasn't that strong. If we're just relying on her willpower to get us through, that's never going to happen. She doesn't have the willpower. We know this for a fact that she doesn't have the willpower. Chantel's never had the willpower to stop anything. And fundamentally, there's a hole inside of her that she's filling with those drugs, right? Cocaine in particular, it doesn't have withdrawal the way that a lot of other drugs do. So alcohol withdrawal can kill you. Heroin withdrawal has also like a lot of severe side effects. But cocaine, all the withdrawal is emotional, right? You're going to feel a lot of those, like the lack of like serotonin and the depression and whatnot. All of those are real. I'm not saying that they're not real and they're not difficult, but the life-threatening sort of like side effects, like the shakes that you would get with alcohol withdrawal, you don't get with that. The worst thing that can happen is that it can increase your chances of like stroking out. But to be fair, that's mostly when you're taking the drug too. It's not like it happens after the fact when you're coming down from it. So she's dealing with the emotional withdrawal of it, but she hasn't done any of the steps necessary to really fix anything in her life, right? She hasn't contacted any kind of therapy. She isn't attending any kind of meetings, and she's still avoiding her friends and family. So it's not like she has fixed the emotional side of the issues that she's facing. And because of that, I don't think that there is anything in her. There is no deep-seated like willpower that will emerge to get her out of this mess. Then we talk about, if we're talking about her addictions, we also have to talk about food. We have seen her eating Nashville chicken after Nashville chicken. She's been pounding them back at a speed that I find quite frankly alarming. I am not sure what is it about Nashville chicken that she likes so much. There's a ton of other food out there in the world. I'm sure the Nashville chicken is good. I mean, it's fast food, right? It's good in the way that all fast food is good. It's designed to be. But her particular obsession with this one food makes me feel like there is some emotional connection that she's made there. And she eats it on a regular basis now. It's become part of her like daily intake. And I'm hoping that as stuff resolves, that maybe that addiction goes away, that aspect of her food addiction goes away. But I don't know. We've seen her have McDonald's in particular when she is like in a rage. And I feel like this is just a new version of that. And when we are looking at addiction overall, we have to look at the way that stuff fluctuates back and forth in her life. We've seen her weight loss has slowed down and she's gaining a little bit of the weight back. But when we look at how quickly she is eating and how slowly she's gaining the weight back, you have to think there has to be something else in the equation here. It doesn't make sense that she is eating this much on this consistent basis, but she's only gaining a few pounds here and there, right? I would have thought she would have gained it back a lot faster, especially given the fact that she has been mostly just confined to her room, not really doing anything. So it also lends more evidence to the fact that, you know, she is still on cocaine. Do I think she's doing as much cocaine as before? No, I don't. I think that she's slowed down. I think that the other addiction that she has, which is the need for attention, especially male attention from Dom, I think that is fulfilling something inside of her that she was using cocaine for before. And now that she's got both the cocaine, the food, and now Dom, I don't think that she's taking the cocaine quite as much as she was before. I don't for a second think that she stopped, because I think she started because Dom introduced it to her. And now that he is in her life, I don't think she's going to stop until I think one of them is either dead or in jail. Because while she is on YouTube, she will have an audience. And because she has an audience, she's going to have money. And while she has money, she's going to keep doing it. That's a very sad thing, but I genuinely think that that is where it's headed right now. The next thing I want to talk about is isolating. She is either in her room or in Dom's house. And those are really the only places we've seen her. There's a couple shots of her here and there where she goes out for like groceries or whatever, but she's no longer really going anywhere or doing anything. Do you guys remember in the middle where she was going to like Starbucks and she would go to like those drives where she was looking at the Christmas lights? You know, she would just drive places and she'd like eat different foods. Nothing, none of that, none of the walks that she was doing, even just going to different places in her car, she's no longer doing. She's isolating in her room. Her world has shrunk down to just her room and then occasionally to Dom's room. And honestly, that worries me a lot. I've said before, one of the biggest concerns that I have for someone in Chantel's and in Amber Lynn's health is that they'll become immobile. Chantel is choosing immobility and houseboundness for herself. And once you are in that situation where you're just at home all of the time and all you have to entertain yourself with is mostly food, you get into this habit of eating more and more and more and more. And I worry that because of that, her weight gain is going to spike up even more. Or even worse, her drug use is going to spike up more and more. And her isolation is not just in terms of her just being in her room. We've seen again and again that she's shoving people out of her life, right? Her family is a big one. She started with, I have so much support. They're so wonderful to me. I called them. They're willing to help me out, took me to the ER, blah, 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 to, you know, it's my life and I'll do what I want. You can give me your opinion, but that doesn't mean that I have to take it. And honestly, I have so much support that it's stifling me. Chantel doesn't really want support, to be very honest with you. And that's her tendency to self-isolate. Chantel wants the love, the unconditional love that she's always desired, that she feels she's never gotten, which unconditional love is a myth, and I don't think it should exist, to be very honest with you. Even a mother's love, I think, should have limits, fundamentally, because that is how you get into situations where people will like defend their children even when they've committed horrendous acts and like hire lawyers for them. The guy that comes to my mind is God, what's his name? Rapist Brock Turner. That's it. Rapist Brock Turner, who's rape-abiding parents, hired him a lawyer so that he could get in front of a judge and say, well, you know, a couple minutes of action, you know, he's going to get this much time. You're ruining his life for a couple minutes of action. Anyway, sorry. It really upset me to see that, and that's what this reminds me of. She wants the kind of love where she could kill someone and call them and say, hey, can you help me bury a body, and they'd be okay with it. And while it's all fun and games to joke about that, it is not actually a good thing to do. Nobody should love you unconditionally. And Chantel isn't mature enough to understand that, unfortunately. And then, of course, there is Shannon. That's the third point that I wanted to talk about in this video. Shannon is an old friend of Chantel's, if you guys aren't aware. She has been a friend of hers, according to Chantel, for 15 years. You know, they're reconnected. Chantel remodded her, all of that good stuff. So Shannon came onto her channel and she said, hey, you know, Dom is still beating you. You know, why are you still with him? I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the exact quotes right now. And Chantel got all up in arms about it. Behind the scenes, what had happened was that Chantel had contacted Shannon and been like, hey, look, you know, I'm in this abusive relationship. I am, you know, he hit me, and just confided in her all of this information. And Shannon turned around. She told her parents about this. She called Dom and she said, you're a piece of shit, leave my friend alone. And then when none of that worked, she went onto Foodie Beauty's channel and put it on blast. And then she went onto FFG's channel, French Fried Girl's channel, and she put it on blast there. My thoughts on it are a little bit complicated. I am of the belief that if someone in my life was in those circumstances, I would burn every bridge, every single one of them. I would call their mom, their boss, their priest, every person in their life. I would call and tell them that this is happening. I am not the friend you tell when you are in an abusive relationship if you don't want help. I will tell everybody, but I would not do it the way that Shannon has done it, because I think what she did was actually quite reckless. And I feel that her actions come from a good place. They do. I think that she saw this and she got worried for Chantel, and she did what she could to get Chantel out of it, which is essentially called everybody in Chantel's life. And once that didn't work, she contacted her fan base, essentially, to try and get them to apply pressure on Chantel to help her change her ways. I don't think that was very smart. If you have someone in your life who is in an abusive relationship, please contact like a shelter and ask them what you should do. I am not an expert in this, but my understanding of it is that if the abuser finds out that there are people trying to help the person that they are abusing, they can take drastic measures to prevent them from leaving. And it's not true in every situation, but it is true in quite a few of them. And I would hate for something Shannon did to have negative repercussions onto Chantel, especially because Chantel is a vulnerable person. I've said before, I don't like her, and I think that she's a piece of shit a lot of the time. But Chantel is a morbidly obese 400+ pound woman, and she she can't run very far. She can't defend herself. And she has a habit of self-isolating that goes back well before Dom ever entered the picture. She is the perfect person to abuse. On top of that, she's a notorious liar, which puts us in the position of, even now, I look at the situation, I think to myself, how much of it is true? What seeds of it are true? Because I have to question everything, because that's just who Chantal is. It's how she's always been. And I don't like that, but it does make her a vulnerable person. People who are abusive look for people who are already in a delicate social situation, so they can push them further and cut them off from everybody in their lives, and they can take advantage of them to the fullest. And unfortunately, it's easy to do for Chantal, because Chantal kind of wants that. She wants that obsessive, near crazed love. She wants that, bad boy who only loves her, but hates the world kind of love, that very childish, immature kind of love. I'll be very honest with you. There was a time in my life when I was a teenager and I thought, oh, bad boys, I like them. But as I've gotten older, I don't actually like bad boys. Someone who can treat people in their lives so callously is not somebody that I want in mine. I don't want somebody who's horrible to the world and kind just to me. I don't want that. I find one of the best things about Partner is that every month he pulls out money. He's done this for as long as I've known him. He pulls out money, and he makes it just like small bills, like fives and like ones, and he'll put them in an envelope, and he keeps them in his car. And if he ever sees someone who's asking for money, he'll give it out. He does this with like $100 or like whatever in a month. And I didn't realize he was doing it at first. I just figured he had like cash with him for, like, I keep coins in my car all the time for parking, and I figured it was something like that. And when we were first dating, and I asked him about it, and he said, well, I'm not gonna miss the $100 that much, but having $5 can mean a lot to someone if that means that they can get like a hot coffee and like a bagel or something, right? Like, it's a very small gesture of kindness, and honestly, anytime I've mentioned it to him, he becomes very uncomfortable, because he's like, it's such a nothing that I don't feel like you should mention it. But it's the thoughtfulness behind it that made me really love him. And that's what I want. I don't want someone who's an asshole to everybody around them. I want someone who's actively willing to change and actively willing to learn and become a better person and help elevate those around them to be a better person as well. I don't want someone who is miserable and makes everybody but me around them miserable. And I think that the longer you live and the more life experiences you have, the more you realize that kindness is honestly the biggest thing that pays off in life. I have gotten so much stuff like resolved for me because I have dealt with it with kindness. And I really wish Chantal would embrace that more. A lot of the problems she has on her channel, she creates for herself because she fundamentally lacks the ability to see beyond herself. And it puts her in a world of trouble. It puts her in the position where she just doesn't understand why people are mad. She expects one set of rules for herself and another set of rules for everybody else. And it's that same thing, right? That lack of empathy, that lack of kindness that I think gets her in these positions. If she had the ability to understand that, if she had the ability to recognize nuance and the ability to recognize that, hey, if this thing hurts me, maybe it'll hurt other people, and apply it consistently, she wouldn't be in the position that she is now. Which brings me back to Shannon. I think that Shannon was in a bad position. We know as much, right? Shannon was a victim of abuse herself, something which Chantal disclosed without any sort of thought, without any sort of consideration that she had been a victim of abuse, not once but twice in the past. And somehow, for some reason, Chantal expected that, it's not fair for Shannon to have said it, but it's fine that Chantal did. Anyway, the moral of that story is that I think Shannon did what she did because she cares about Chantal. I think the way that she would care about any abuse victim. But I also think that when you are that personally invested in a situation, when they're your friend, when you've been the victim of abuse yourself, when you've had circumstances that you're dealing with in the past that become similar to this, when you empathize with it overly much, it can lead to a lot of passion and a lot of anger. And I think that's why she went into FFG's chat, because I think that when she couldn't get Chantal to see what she thinks Chantal needed to see, I think that she went in the complete opposite direction and decided, I'm going to burn every bridge on the way out. And I think a lot of that has to do with self-punishment, of being like, how could I have been so stupid, right? And when you have been a victim of abuse, your your personal self-worth tends to be very, very low. So I can't help but feel that she probably has a very low opinion of herself. Maybe even now, maybe she's worked on it a lot. Maybe I'm projecting, I don't know. But when she's had someone consistently beating her down to nothing, both maybe emotionally, not physically, that terminology came out wrong. But when you've got someone who's literally made you feel like you are worth nothing your entire life, a lot of times when you see someone else portraying those same habits, you become irrationally mad at them, because turning that anger outwards is a lot easier than reflecting inwards. And that's how it came across to me with Shannon. I don't think that what Shannon did was correct. I can understand where she came from, but I don't think it was helpful, not in the way that she wants. I know that as of recording this, Chantel has gone back to Dom, and I don't think that that is likely to change. I think the only way that Chantel is ever really going to get out of the whole Dom situation is when she wants to. No one is going to convince her otherwise. It's the same thing with any kind of help. Because Chantel isn't in a typical, like the what you see in the movies where, they're cut off financially, where they don't have access to anybody outside, right? She's got a really big platform and she's got a lot of her own money. And he's not keeping her hostage in her house. She can leave. She has to choose to walk away from that. And to choose to walk away from that, it requires a sense of self-worth that I don't think Chantel currently has. And if she stays in this relationship, I'm unsure she'll ever be able to develop. And I don't think that going into FFG's chat when everything had already been done really did anything other than make it that much harder for you to ever get Chantel to see anything your way. Which brings me to Hater Nation War, I don't know, what is it, 3.0, 4.0, whatever it is. Look, I like Yaba. And I like French Fried Girl. I don't agree with everything they have to say, and I don't personally have any vested interest in this particular drama. So I just don't want it on my channel. At the end of the day, they're both grown women, and if they have an issue with each other, they can talk to each other, or they cannot, or they can make a video, or they cannot. Either way, I have nothing to do with this, and I will not be taking sides, because I was offline for a lot of this, first of all. And second of all, I don't think it really requires any of my input. Unless it is something to do with like something that I very personally care about, right? So if someone is making like racist comments, if someone is making ableist comments, and I know this person, I've associated with this person, I will say something. But I don't know Yaba or French Fried Girl personally, even on a casual basis. Like I can say quite frankly that like Callie is my friend, right? I can say quite frankly that Shane is my friend, that Jacyln is my friend. But not everybody in the community is my friend, and I don't want to speak on it because I don't know them. I don't know what's happening with them, and I don't keep up to date on everything. And I don't have that kind of energy. So please don't bring it to my attention. I in the kindest possible way, I don't care. And also don't talk about it in my chats. You guys can talk to the creators in question. They probably have more insight into the situation anyway, or someone who's more invested in this, maybe a friend of theirs who's talking about it, but it just isn't me. It just isn't me. All right. Last but not least, I wanted to talk about the abuse itself. I mentioned a couple of times in the past that I think that Chantel is unlikely to be the victim of physical abuse, and I want to take my statements back because obviously I was completely wrong, and I'm very sorry for ever having said that. I can't imagine what she's going through, and I'm very sorry that she had to deal with that. I'm even more sorry that she has so little sense of self-worth that she's willing to stay with a man who would treat her this way. I think that it doesn't matter who it is in your life. If they are making you feel like garbage every single day for factors about yourself that you cannot change, if they are putting hands on you in any way that you don't want hands on you, then I think that that is a situation that you need to leave. I'm going to try and link some hotline stuff down below so that you guys can take a look. If anybody is in this situation, please, my email address is always linked down below. Please email me. Please reach out to me if there's anything that I can do, if there's anything that I can help with, I would love to help with. I'll leave the the hotline links and stuff down below so you can contact someone who knows what they're talking about, because I would love to be able to help you, but my resources, my own understanding of this stuff is also limited. But if you feel like talking to me is better than talking to no one, then please do. And it sucks. It sucks that I was wrong. And it sucks that even now there's a small part of me that doubts it. It sucks that she won't leave Dom. But I don't really know I don't really know what the solution here is. I sometimes find myself at a loss, and it's one of the reasons why I didn't know how to come back, is because she's on such a scary path. And I think to myself, is it worth talking about it anymore? Do I still want to talk about Chantel? And I have half a mind to, and I have a half mind to stop. What I can say is that I'm very disappointed in Pete's for essentially sitting this out. I can understand him not wanting to be on video or even doing it like in front of everyone, but his continued support of her behind the scenes and from what we've seen in videos has been a little bit disturbing, especially given her actions with Dom. And I'm very happy that she has a BB in her life, someone who's level-headed and who's kind and who's willing to listen to her and care about her in a way that she obviously doesn't seem to listen or care about herself. And last but not least, I really, really hope that her family does something to get her out of this situation. I know that I've had my ass handed to me, quite rightfully so, before, in talking about the issue of substance abuse and how families can be supportive of them. And I don't want to speak out of my ass again. And I know it can be really difficult, but I really hope that her family has a path forward with this. I really hope they can support her in a way that they can get her out of this situation, because that's what she needs right now. And I think that will be it for my video. Sorry it was a little bit more of a somber one. Sorry if the background's a little bit empty and desolate looking. I'm still working on it. And, you know, I just wanted to get my thoughts out on everything. And then hopefully tomorrow I'll have another video. I probably won't have a video on Wednesday, just to throw that out there. But then, you know, Thursday I'll hope to have another video up. I'll see if I can do maybe like an update video on Amber at some point, but the Amber videos don't do quite as well. And honestly, I don't think there's much happening with Amber right now anyway. And yeah, if there's anything in particular you guys want me to address, please do leave it down below. I'll go through it. I know this was very, very generalized. I just took a couple of notes here. I just wanted to go through and get all my thoughts out there so that if anyone is wondering what they are, that's what they are. And, you know, as always, if you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs down. I've got all my, I've got like my links down below, social media links down below. I've got Instagram, Twitter, and I've got Patreon. If you guys don't know what Patreon is, think about it like the tip jar for the internet. So if you like the job I'm doing here, you want me to continue, consider tossing a few coins in my direction. You don't have to, and it's not necessary, but it really does help me out, and I really appreciate it. Special thank you to my patron of honor, D. Higgins. I love you, girl. And as always, I'm Jasmine, the sequel, and I am not relatable. Peace. A special thank you to my patrons, Acrophobe, Ariel M, Christina, Courtney EP, Wild Rose, Xanthal, Jam Beans, Colleen L, Debbie Elliott, Just Jude, Kate O, and D. Higgins.